Hello and welcome to episode 117. Shout out to Master Chief. But that's not our topic for the day. So really there isn't going to be a review because all of these are pretty much Farr out of Farr. So the highest score I can give. The 4 out of 4 stars. Except the first one, which I'm going to say is overrated. So let's just start it off. This is my favorite comic books of all time. This is currently in 2017, obviously, because it could always change. You never know. These are my personal favorites. They're all DC, by the way, because I don't really read Marvel. But if you have any Marvel comic books that are your favorite, please link them in the comments below. Like I say in every video, DC, I read their comics. I like their movies. Marvel, their movies are amazing. So, let's start off with technically 8, because there's 8 of them here, with honorable mentions making 10. The Dark Knight Returns. I love the idea of it. I love that he returns after, being away for so long. The only thing I didn't really like, personally, I didn't like the idea of mutants. That's just me, though. If you love this, it's perfectly fine to love this comic book. I personally think it's great, but at the same time, I was overhyped for it, so that's why it's the lowest on the list of my favorites here. I did enjoy it, though, like I said. Then, on to the next one. Batman The Long Halloween. I just loved it. It pretty much put all of his rogue gallery into this book, which was great. I loved how it was like, oh, hey, here's this character that you haven't heard of in a long time. Or I never heard of, because I don't really read many comics, to be honest. These are pretty much all that I own, if I'm being honest here. But yeah, so I thought it was amazing because it was like, oh, it's like a long Halloween night for Batman. And he knows it. But yeah, it's great. There's no way to really explain it other than it takes place over one long night, where it's pretty much all of his rogues gallery. So I loved it. Then Superman Red Sun. This is an amazing one. It takes Superman, and instead of making him, land in Kansas, he lands in Russia. I don't remember where in Russia exactly. I think it was Moscow. He lands in Russia, and he works for Russia then, pretty much. He's a Russian icon instead of a U.S. icon. And Lex Luthor is a good guy, so it's weird to think that that's what happened. Lex Luthor is actually the president of the United States, but I'd say give it a read. Also, I love the font on this. That's amazing. So, Batman Year One. The one that came pretty much before The Dark Knight Returns by a long shot. It's his first year as being Batman. It's also Jim Gordon's first year in Gotham. I loved it. I loved giving them an origin story in a way that was cool. Like, the fact that we get to see Jim Gordon, it being his first year coming to Gotham, I loved it. I loved that it focused on Jim and Batman at the same time. Yep. Then, Batman Hush. This one. The ending alone. But the whole book is amazing. Jim Lee drew it. And then Jeb Leb, hoping I'm pronouncing that right, did the writing. But yeah, it's great. Pretty much it. I don't know how to explain it without spoiling it. So just go give it a read. It's worth a read for sure. Maybe not owning it. And then leading up to the very popular game, Injustice, they made comic books. This is Year 1. I have Year 2 also. Did not enjoy it as much. Year 1 was amazing. That leads up to the video game, Injustice Gods Among Us. Now there's Injustice 2, obviously, with Injustice 2 comics. So, I just love the idea of Superman being evil, in a way. Like, Lois dies, if you haven't read, spoiler, obviously. But Lois dies, and he becomes a tyrant. He becomes a dictator. It's cool. I love it. Worth a read again. I also love the artwork. So we're picking up because, well, I only have 5 minutes to shoot, and I ran out of 5 minutes, to be honest. So, sorry if it looks a little weird. So, coming back with Batman the Killing Joke. What is there to be said about this? It's like just an amazing comic book. If you haven't read it, it's only a one-off, so it's like 80 pages. It's definitely worth reading. What is there to be said, though? It's considered one of the greatest comics of all time for a reason. I love the beginning, how it's Batman talking to the Joker in his prison cell and saying, this is going to end, either I die, you die, or we both die. So I would like to come to a compromise. And then it's repeated at the end of the book pretty much too, which is cool. I love it. What is there to be said, though? Like I said, it's so good. If you haven't read it, this is one that you have to read. Like I said, it's only 80 pages or so definitely worth reading. The real only way to get it is the deluxe edition, but if you want to, there's also Batman Noir, which is amazing also. I enjoy it in black and white too. I just think there's some scenes that do need to be in color, but there are most of the scenes work amazing in black and white, so I'd recommend it if you want to get it in black and white. So then we're going to come to honorable mentions. The Return of Superman and The Reign of the Supermen. The only reason I put these two in honorable mentions is because they follow my favorite comic book of all time. I know what you're going to say once you see it. Where's Funeral for a Friend? I thought Funeral for a Friend was okay, but I love these two because I love the fact that people took over for Superman, but they never could replace Superman, so Superman returned then. But yeah, these two are great also. Then, hands down, my personal favorite, The Death of Superman. In the 90s when it came out, 1993, and 92-ish, that's when it was about, 1992 and 93. So, what is there to be said? It's my favorite comic book. I just love how it starts off with Doomsday escaping, and he's escaping, obviously. We don't know where from, they don't really explain. They probably do in later comics, but I don't really read comics that much. So, he escapes from wherever he was being held. Then he fights the Justice League while Superman is on a talk show, which I love. I love that aspect for some reason. I would love to have Superman on my talk show. Superman, shout out to you if you want to come on my talk show. Well, then he decides, well, I have to fight. So in the next issue, he starts fighting, and he's like, wow, this guy is really strong, really powerful. And then it all ends, we're skipping some issues here because, well, you just have to read it. It all ends with Superman dying, obviously, because of the death of Superman. So, really, those are my favorite comic books. Like I said, please, if you like Marvel, tell me your favorites. Tell me your favorite DCs also. Tell me any comic books you like, for that matter. Just tell me in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Anyone. And tell me, because I might want to read them. If they're in this list, that's fine. I'll read them again for you. But as always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe in a far off night.